Hello, you wonderful, lovely heathens. I'm Thomas Johnson.
And I'm Jeff Key.
We're the gods left. And we're drinking pirate piss. Ah, la, 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 la. Nothing like a golden shower to start the day. Oh, literally. It's a banana soda called Pirate Piss from Gross Gus, Indian Wells Brewing Company. When you just want that lovely golden nectar just sprinkling down your throat. Just like how all them GOP officials just gather up for their lovely nectar of the gods. Oh, yes, Trump, give me that lovely nectar. Anyway. Nice and sterile. Anyway. Oh, hello, girl. Hope y'all having a wonderful, wonderful week, because we got wonderful mixture of things to say. Nothing planned out right, but we do got a lot of shit to say.
Last YouTube video we made was talking about transgender rights.
Yes.
And here in Oklahoma, some of the transgender students are suing the state for their stupid fucking bathroom bills.
Yeah, because it's kind of awkward for them to begin with. You know, with their situations and all. They're in transition, they're trying to find themselves and all that, and they're still being alienated and targeted by these dickholes. Lack thereof.
Yeah, it's always interesting. The party of family values picks on marginalized and oppressed young people, kicks their own children out to the curb, which we've done videos on that before too.
About the homeless youth of the gay community.
And generally, psychologically, if not literally, torture their young so that they won't turn out gay.
Because nothing says I love you like the abusive force of Jesus' love. Jesus loves you! Don't be gay!
No hate, quite like Christian love.
Mm-hmm. As long as you don't forget the safe word. Jehovah.
Pineapple.
Or that too. Now, before we continue on, we do have a wonderful, lovely guest here who I've known for many years. She's basically my sister from another mother, Nicole Dawson.
Hi, guys.
She's a little camera shy, but she will speak her mind, because she does speak her mind, knowing her.
Always.
And I love it when you do.
Happy to be here.
I would love to have you on. So, she's off. She's safe from the eye of the camera. Like Judas Priest, electric eye in the sky. Like Big Brother's watching. Oh, by the way, since you're a part of this, you get a lovely bottle of Pirate Piss yourself.
Ooh, it's warm. Tasty, tasty.
Oh, yes. Just kind of smooth right down.
To the god that's left.
To the guy that's left. Mazel tov.
Buttery.
Just like a stick of butter. Oh. Exercise my demons.
I can just feel Paula Dean's racist love all over me.
Oh, you just wait till you get that butter rum, honey. Then you get Paula Dean's love all over you. Because she likes to smother her shit in butter.
Makes you want to biscuit.
Oh, yes. Just deep fry that racism. Just get good and deep fried. Good thick crust.
Now, in Rhode Island, and I'm surprised it's fucking Rhode Island because people up in New England are usually more liberal than conservative, but
Yeah.
in Rhode Island, there are anti-abortion activists who want to bring a case to the Supreme Court that will allow for fetal personhood. and basically make abortion illegal federally.
And the thing about it is this. On a related note, the Republicans really shot themselves in the foot by having Roe v. Wade overturned. Because everyone, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Liberal, whatever, everyone are unified, for the most part, in this country against the overturning of Roe v. Wade, which will affect the midterm elections coming up soon in November. And the polls show that. And they're sweating. They're sweating bad.
You're telling me that people aren't in favor of women who have fetuses that have not developed skulls bringing their children to term?
They are not... there are very few people that are for, like, pro-life bullshit. Okay? Which means refusing the right of a woman to have an abortion if needed.
I would like to challenge that term a little bit.
Okay.
They are forced birth, pro-birthers. They are anti-woman. I would not go so far as to say they are pro-life. That may be their term. I don't think it accurately describes their position.
Or their focus.
Well, let's get from a mother's perspective and a woman's perspective here.
As a person with a uterus and a person that does have a child and has experienced birth, I'm of the position that no person, regardless of their pronouns or their stance on politics, should ever be forced to go through something as life-changing and unstabilizing as the birthing process, let alone pregnancy, can be. That is something that should be very personal, that the person should be allowed to make those choices that are definitely going to alter their life in the future, bar none, regardless of if it's a healthy pregnancy, an unhealthy pregnancy, a miscarriage, immediate loss of birth. Those situations are life-changing, mind-altering, and the government should stay the fuck out of it. That's my stance.
Amen, sister. Preach.
One of the things I recently heard was that down in, I believe it's either Florida or Georgia, there was a 16-year-old who got pregnant, and they said that she's too young, she's too immature to make the decision to have an abortion. She's too young, too immature to make the decision to have an abortion, but apparently she's old enough and mature enough to raise a child.
Again, like the Supreme Court Justice says, we're low on demand. We gotta feed the machine.
Another article I just looked at, like just a couple minutes ago, on the site called The Lever, was about
the lever or the lover?
The lever.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Toys and shit. Was about how cutting down even this small little amount of student debt that Joe Biden has cut back on, that it's canceled for students, is enough to drive the recruitment numbers down even further than they already were.
So what they're doing is basically this. They're using the college students who are suffering from student debt, baiting them into signing up for the military in hopes to get bailed out of their debt at the chance of risking bodily mental harm.
Or enticing them into the military by saying, you won't incur this stress and debt if you would just sell your body to us for the mild price of college.
Sell your body or sell your ability to be mentally harmed and scarred for the rest of your life.
Permanently.
Yes, just hit me again. Just whip me, beat me, put me through it. You know what? If you really want to put someone through a fucking boot camp, get a masochist. Get a bunch of masochists there who just big pain sluts, okay? Just throw them in there so they get turned on. I get it. they might stand erect in more ways than one when they get called up for lineup and stuff. But when they get fucking put through boot camp and the drill sergeant is screaming, yelling, and putting them through all this abuse, it's like, this is heaven, yes! Yes, drill sergeant, sir! And they're gonna be fucking, it's like, oh shit, we're really gonna get abused this time, honey. We're going overseas,
A truly obedient subculture. If you want someone who is gonna be thoughtlessly obedient, find you a masochist.
Yes. Find you a good submissive masochist who just loves a good beating. And honey, nothing says in the Army, in the Marines, in the Navy, like a good submissive masochist. A little pain slut would be a good soldier. They really know how to take it for the team,
Amen.
In the Navy, you can get an STD in the Navy. Gotta support them troops, And besides, think about it this way. It won't be so much bad having people like that listed in the military. Think of all the stress that normal soldiers go through, right?
Right.
Fuck, when they're on leave, they're not going to be fucking leaving. They're going to have their own little fucking orgies at the fucking barracks. It's like, we found new use for the K-bar.
That's commitment.
Oh, I know, right? They're getting their fucking Marine stamps on their ass. Like, yes, this right there, close to the crack. Yes! That's where they need to start looking for recruits. You get them kinky, fucking pervy pain sluts enlisted in the military, they'll be more than willing to go through the boot camp. Probably a couple times.
Solves two problems.
Hey.
You don't have to worry about young 18-year-olds worrying about debt, and you get an obedient system of future soldiers.
Only people that are going to get PTSD is the lieutenants and generals walking into the barracks, okay, at the wrong fucking time. Okay? It's like, don't ask, don't tell. It's going to be in reverse. It's like, Lieutenant, what's wrong? I'm not saying, I'm not telling, I'm not asking. We love you guys. All joking aside, the government has ways to try and manipulate people into doing what they want for years, okay? Yeah. Especially when it comes to the military. The military is always putting recruitment offices in low-income areas, colleges where people are struggling because they know that they're trying to look for money. They're trying to find a way to buy themselves out of the situation they're in.
Yep.
So they go into the worst areas possible, promise people education, a way out, big money, big payday, big everything.
And I didn't know this until this year, but previously, you weren't allowed to join the military unless you had graduated high school or had an equivalent thereof.
But here lately, they're even dropping the requirements of that even lower.
Yep.
So now you're having, really? If you pass third grade, you get a rifle, kid. Oh, shucks. We don't care if you fuck your donkey or whatever. If you pass third grade, if you can read, if you can read the little engine that could, and you can put 2 + 2 together, you get a gun. Get the fuck in there, Kind of shows,
Get the fuck in there. It's Vietnam. Go kill each other.
At least back then they had some intelligence. Back then it was like, you get the fuck in there and go to prison. That's kind of what it was back in Nam.
Yeah.
Would you like some input in this? I'm sure. I see it there like, you have this whole Beavis and Butthead moment here.
I've known a lot of high schoolers, especially people around me that went to high school with me, to enlist in the military right out of high school for lack of options as far as college goes, for lack of focus for the future of their life. And I just think that to lower the standards of admission to the military is just putting even more impressionable young people in situations that they don't fully understand. And to say that that's okay because you're trying to create a slave force or whatever the government's trying to create is abhorrent at the very least. And not the purpose that they peddle to these young people that have no idea what they're doing.
When I was coming of age, back when I was 17, 19, 20, 21, they had the Iraq War and the Afghanistan War. Now, I can tell you about the Iraq War. At first, it was, we'll be greeted as liberators. We weren't. Then it was, they have weapons of mass destruction. They didn't.
The Taliban was in there. Al-Qaeda was in there.
Yeah. Then it was they were linked to 9/11, which is today. Happy 21st anniversary.
Now, real quick.
And they weren't connected to 9/11 either. Everything that they told us about why we were over there
was a lie.
Yeah.
The only reason why I was over in Iraq to begin with was two reasons. One, George Bush Jr. wants to finish his daddy's dirty work from the Desert Storm because he never got a chance to fully defeat Saddam Hussein. He wanted to go over there and take him out because even after the end of the Desert Storm and the Iran conflict, the problem is...
Yeah, W, like many conservatives, has daddy issues. He wanted to please his daddy more than anything. If that meant going over to the Middle East and killing a few brown people, well, that's what it meant, didn't it?
But another thing is, George W. Bush also was in charge of a big oil company down in Texas, and Iraq and other Middle East countries have their big
Exxon
oil
Mobil.
fields. Big oil up there in Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia. So they go over there. Oh, we're liberators. Get a few drums while you can. Burn this fucker down.
I believe Dick Cheney, before he became VP, was on the board of...
He was.
Yeah.
So it was all for profit rather than protection of the country. And here's the thing I have to say about 9/11. Even
that and W sucking his father's cock. That was really important, too.
Yeah. Way to go, son. Keep it up. Someday you can be president, too. All right, Daddy. Yeah. But the thing about it is this. Even though I feel, just like everyone else, that 9/11 is a very tragic, horrific day, I feel that everyone continuously dragging the event and the names and the victims through the mud, continuously just to get a political shot in the arm, to get people to remember that horrific day when they say, remember 9/11, remember 9/11. Listen, I drove up and down the road today. All these churches are having these cookouts and these patriotic deals, waving the flags.
Yeah,
remember
it's
9/11.
Patriots Day now. Apparently.
Okay, yes, we're remembering 9/11 by barbecuing raw meat. When I was in high school and I'm seeing people being barbecued and burning fucking buildings. Yeah, patriotic, okay? Mind you, I was in high school and when they start putting this on, I feel like an ass about this. Some might laugh, some might say, you're a dick. When I was in high school at the time, I was in Eufaula, okay? Little podunk, country town. I did not fit in there one fucking bit. I was like... So, the teacher I had in the first hour was an English teacher. She hated my fucking guts. She always had that on me. So, 9/11 happened. We didn't know what's going on. They said, we need to watch the TV now. So we turned on the TV. and planes hitting the towers and stuff like that. I didn't think of anything of it. I thought it was a movie because, you don't see shit like this happening for real in real life. This is a movie. It's got to be a movie. And so I'm cracking jokes like I do. I get a wild hair. I'm going to fuck with someone. That day I was going to fuck with the teacher. Bad day to fuck with the teacher. Really, a bad day to fuck with the teacher. So, as we see the people jumping off the buildings, committing suicide, doing flips and all that, head dives, I was doing scorecards. Like, I'm judging divers and Olympic dives. I was being a dick. I didn't know. It was real. I was, 15 or 16 at the time. I was young and dumb. I would admit it.
A lot of people, when they first saw that, didn't know if it was real or not.
I know, but I was like, 9.5. Could have done better on the half gainer. She's like, God damn it, Thomas, this is fucking real. At that point, I sunk deep, deep, deep. I was like, oh, God damn, I'm such an asshole. I felt horrible. Then on afterwards, I got I paid more attention to everything. I'd be more aware of what's going on. And through, I was like, started to notice all the bullshit that followed with George W., Cheney, Iraq, Saddam, Bin Laden, everything. And I got smart, but, it's like this. You have a friend that died a nasty death, or he committed suicide, and you have people keep bringing it up, dragging their names through the mud, just for their benefit. That's a fucking dick move. That's a big dick move. Yep. Same thing happens when you're a politician and you're bringing up tragic events and you want to keep people to remember this shit. It's the same difference. You're dragging them through the mud just to get attention, and that's a fucking dick move to do.
There were people that were related to the victims themselves, basically, of 9/11, who were actually in favor of peace.
Yeah.
Didn't want to go and start these bullshit wars.
Yeah.
What conservatives said about those people is that they had a total lack of empathy for those people.
No, they're just trying to find an excuse to go into combat.
Exactly.
Do you have something to say? No, you just sit back and enjoy the show here.
Now, what I also remember is Jon Stewart.
Yes.
Probably the best political comedian we have nowadays.
The guy is a fucking workhorse.
Now, as much as the conservatives and the Republicans would bring up 9/11, as much as that was their go-to for explaining a lot of the shit they wanted to do, it came to providing health care for the veterans, came to providing health care for the first responders, came to providing health care for the victims of that day who managed to still live throughout that day.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't care. If it hadn't been for Jon Stewart, those people would not have had any health care provided to them from the state. So they like to bring up those people to use them, to exploit any emotional reaction that people may have towards hearing about them. But when it comes time to help those people, fuck them.
Yeah. Those politicians, especially with the veterans. Let's go back to the veterans deal. They tried to pass a bill a while back, which they did now thanks to Jon Stewart, to try to ensure that they get the proper health care and benefits that they get through the VA. But because shit wasn't going the way for the GOP, they tried to block it and tried to vote against it after they already approved it the first time voting on it.
Support the troops.
Yeah, until they don't get what they want, then it's like, fuck them. do you have any things you like to talk about? No. You're a very well-spoken person.
I'm just what we're doing.
Do you have anything you want to discuss? Anything you want to bring up? Any topics?
Well, to tie into the topic of these forced birthing bills that they're creating, we already see through all of these examples that we've talked about today how the government feels about humanity and individuals that are human beings in this country. On the idea of you're forcing to bring more people into the world, into this country at the very least, is going to be a stressor, not just for the households that are birthing and the birthers that are having these children, but to the systems that are already strained through the lack of competence of these politicians, the lack of care for humanity that they have, that's been shown through numerous examples that we've only touched on a few today. How can we expect these people who have no respect for humanity to gain that respect in the future? It just seems outrageous to expect that kind of response from them when they are fully incapable of having humanity themselves. The lack of care for someone's well-being, the lack of care for their mental health in this country is gross. And the lack of care for unwanted children who are put into the federal systems, who are put into the state systems, that's usually the stance that somebody takes of forced, when they are pro-choice, or pro-life, to force these people to birth children. Oh, well, if you don't want to keep the child, then allow the child to live and give it up for adoption. I don't know how much research anybody's done on the state-run systems for adoption.
Oh, I do.
And was it Missouri that lost I don't know how many children? They have no idea of their location. Yeah. We expect these people to take care? Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Not to mention the fact that here in Oklahoma, from learning from my own physician, the age that they have to age out the system of adoption, where they kick them out in the street, 15. 15 years old, they'll kick them out in the street.
There's just no resources allotted. There's just no care for these human beings that are being, in the future, that are going to be forced to be brought into this land, this world. There's just no care being taken for them. And that's just gross. And the very basis of the definition. Just gross. That someone would be forced to go through such a life-changing instance to just be forgotten, to just be left out. And all of these pro-life, pro-birther people should just take a long look at themselves and their stance for humanity. Because it's just gross. They're just gross people, in my opinion.
You know what I think they should do? They should make another human centipede movie. Okay? But this time, all these pro-lifers, these dipshits and stuff, have them all ass to mouth, herded up like cattle. Okay? Make them feel like cattle. Okay? Just degraded, humiliated cattle. Because that's how they're making these women feel. It's like they're making them feel like livestock.
I'd like to reiterate again that I am against the moniker pro-life. These people are allowing women to risk the chance of sepsis before they will allow them to have a medically necessary abortion.
What's up, Bob?
There is such a thing, and I just learned this year. I'm sure other people are more educated on it than I am, about what's called ectopic pregnancy, which is where a pregnancy occurs outside of where it's supposed to occur.
100% unviable all of the time. All of this nonsense that they're speaking of, to take the egg and implant it in the uterus, all of these ectopic pregnancies are 100% unviable pregnancies. 100% death rate. Not possible.
But they're still making these women carry these children, which could
to the risk of
result
death.
in their death.
And in a healthy pregnancy, there's always a risk of death. It is inhuman. And the lack of knowledge for the female body and the birthing process by these government officials is ridiculous. To think that you could just take a pill in your body that would enter your uterus is ignorant. It's unjust. It's ridiculous. The lack of knowledge for these processes that they're voting on, that they're involved in creating, is ridiculous.
I'm sure a lot of them politicians don't even know what the clitoris is or where it is at.
I need OnStar to find the clit. I need OnStar.
I always say this about these politicians and these right-wing dipshits who attack women's rights and the gay community and all that. They're just miserable because they don't have a good, adventurous life or a good sex life. They're jealous. It's like, how come the gays get all the fun? Because they know how to have fun and live life. Why women do this and that? Well, you know what? Women are strong fucking creatures. No matter what gender, what race, what creature they may be, women are the bringers of life. Okay? Just because a guy gets them pregnant, they're not the ones creating it completely. The woman is the one that creates it. That's why Earth is called Mother Earth. Okay? Because she is the bearer of everything that's created. She brings and gives life to everything. Food, nourishment, oxygen, everything. Everything we need to survive, to live, is Earth. Mother Earth. So, again, I think that is also more of a macho thing. It's like, oh, shit, fuck, beat their chest. Because, like, for example, back in the Dark Ages, if a woman shows more intelligence than a man, or if she knows more, she's able to do more than a man does, she's a witch! Burn her ass! Mm-hmm. In the name of the Lord, she shall burn for being a heretic and a witch. So I just cleared up your herpes with this shit here. It's just plants and herbs. It's fucking simple. If you quit fucking the whore, she has a fucking A on her chest, but you keep dicking. God, motherfucker. That's why a lot of these politicians, even back then, are being so cruel towards women. Because it's more of a fucking beating their chest macho thing. They're humiliated. They're intimidated by the power of a woman. Why do you think Lilith is such a very powerful entity? A deity, if you will. Because when in the Bible, in that creation story, in the original creation story, when God created Adam, he brought forth Lilith. Lilith was not human. She was a divine entity. But she refused to be dominated by a lesser creature, which pissed off God, got her banished. And because of her banishment, all of her children would have been destroyed and murdered by God daily. So, she revolts against God. Because she knows his bullshit and she refuses to be dominated by a lesser being, even if it's a male.
Even before looking at the more interesting parts of Christian Judaism mythology, what we have in the Orthodox Bible is God committing genocide on the firstborns of Egypt, which included babies, and Numbers 5, which I like to bring up quite often, which is a test to see if a woman has cheated or committed adultery. You give her poison. And if she miscarries, has an abortion, she has cheated.
And,
So, there's your pro-life, pro-birth Christianity right there.
Cattle for Jesus. Oh. And basically, that's how it is. And so, with all the bullshit going on nowadays, how people are being treated and mistreated, let's put it that way. Whether it be in the LGBTQ community, where you're in the urban environment, where you're disenfranchised neighborhoods get taken advantage of by the plight of the government and how they're trying to push them out of existence. Black lives do matter. All lives matter. I've always said that. We have always said that. That's why we are here doing what we do, saying what we're saying, and trying to get some voices out, get our voices out there, try and get some thought put into people's minds. Because, I said in a previous video on our Facebook deal, we're basically like the proverbial boot that kicks open the doors, get shit talking, And that's how I see us that way. Turn that down, Bubba. Sorry, my son's in the other room. Wondering his shit.
The hashtags Black Lives Matter and the hashtags All Lives Matter is something that I have found interesting before. Mm-hmm. Black Lives Matter focuses on the violence that is committed by the state, by the government, by the local state government upon
included.
Black people. All Lives Matter can seem like a repudiation of that claim, which is why most leftists have rejected it. However, what I know for a fucking fact is that 900 to 1,000 people every year are killed by police. And what I also know is the times when it's most likely to be a white guy is the times when it's most likely to be somebody who is mentally challenged or has Asperger's or autism. People that won't just immediately follow what the cop says.
And I have an example of that. One of my dad's best friends, his name is Wild Bill.
Yeah.
Okay? He's a wild guy. I admit he is a bigot and stuff to a very big extent. But the point is this. He has epilepsy issues. But mind you, he's 7 foot and 380 pounds. He's a big old redneck.
Yeah.
He got stopped by the police. Their flashing lights set him off into a seizure. So they didn't know how to handle him. They thought he was attacking him. So you have this 7 foot redneck throwing cops over their cars like he's fucking King Kong. My dad had to go up there and tell them he's having a seizure. Turn your squad lights off now. And they're like, what? What was that? They're using clubs, they're tasing him, they're doing all that shit. It wasn't working. They were flinging these guys like freaking rag dolls across the road, all middle of Charles Page Boulevard. From the way they described it, it was kind of funny to begin with. but it took like 8 cops to pin him down.
Yeah.
After they turned the lights off. Once his seizure stopped. He was like, what happened? What's going on? By that time, his head's busted. He's all busted up. So, cops were fucked up more than he was. But still, they didn't realize he was having a seizure. Instead of getting medical assistance right away, they just continued beating the shit out of him. It took my dad to go up there and tell him He's having a seizure. Turn your shit off. Oh, really? But another case happened recently with our friend S.C. King. You know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
About the police issue?
Yes.
Okay. He was walking along the highway on the shoulder in the grass. Cops pulled up, confronted him, and he was just walking. He's fine. Now, mind you, he had an episode a little while back. Yeah. He's fine now. He's leveled and all that. But instead of just letting him walk, they harassed him. And I saw the camera footage, the dash cam. They roughed him up. They tased him. They did all that shit.
Drug him to jail.
And they drug his ass to jail. And they
continued to abuse him and berate him. And I think these examples that we've talked about today are prime examples of the lack of training that these officers have. Talking about disenfranchised youth and everything.
Lack of empathy for the people that they serve.
Yes, they're more militarized, and their lack of humanity for their future, for their fellow man, is evident in all of these just off-the-cuff reactions. The lack of knowledge of mental health, the lack of knowledge of de-escalation, the lack of knowledge of how to properly be a peace officer is evident in all of these examples we've talked about today. And that's where the focus for these officers and these official offices needs to be, is the future training of these peace officers and the expansion of that training to include close relations with mental health officials and how to handle these situations, which they are called into every day, and the lack of knowledge is costing people their lives. They're either being dehumanized, like our friend. They're either being beaten, like Thomas's friend. They're being murdered, just from the lack of response, lack of knowledge and immediate response from the officers. Too often it goes to a gun and fear of the officer, which I think is the root of all of it. That the lack of training and the lack of knowledge on the officer's part, the offices that employ these officers, the lack of knowledge there is evident in all of these examples.
And let alone a proper background check on all the people that enlist to be police officers. Because a lot of them, like, for example, the Oath Keepers. Okay? Yeah. There's a big list of names that just got dropped of local, federal officers, military officers, politicians that are involved in this right-wing militia who had their hand in the January 6th invasion. Okay, the insurrection, all that. So that is scary to begin with when you have these racist bastards who are infiltrating not only our local and federal branches of military and law enforcement, but they're also invading local and federal branches of government. And that's what's scary too, because a lot of people are getting affected and stuff and whatnot. Yes, Brian?
I saw something on Young Turks where it says there's an Oklahoma law that's paying parents to ban books from schools.
That's another thing we need to talk about.
The school is actually paying the parents to ban the books for them.
Now, talking about police, I wouldn't say so much it's just lack of training as it is the wrong kind of training. Cops are often taught that everyone is a possible potential threat and that their main focus should be getting home. If their main focus is getting home and everyone is a potential threat and they're armed, guess what's likely to happen? a couple of shots in the back, right? Make sure that person can't kill you. You kill them first.
A good example of that, there's an incident in California where an officer was dealing with the homeless people out there, right? These people were just chilling on a sidewalk, and this one officer walked up with a shotgun, just point blank shot one of the homeless guys in the head. With a shotgun, point blank. It was on YouTube for a while until they pulled it because it was graphic. They just like, pop, you know? Just because they were loitering on a sidewalk. They're just sitting there chilling underneath a tree because it's out in California. It gets hot. The sun beats down on them all the time. They don't have no sun, no snow, no decent rain out there like we get out here. You know, when we do get it. But it's fucking crazy. It's just like, and then the people saw that. Even though they weren't homeless, they reacted like they were just fucking sitting there. And they just they went after the cops. They had to run. You know, again, no proper training, no proper nothing. And you talk about militarized stuff. Fuck, there's so much money going to the government, to the military fund, and there's so much money going into the police fund to the point where they're getting all these new toys to make themselves look like armed military units.
Like tanks running down city streets.
Armored paddy wagons and stuff. Battering rams. And they dress up their officers to look like military officers.
Battering rams so they can ram down the wrong house, shoot a black woman who happened to be an EMT officer. EMT standing for Emergency Medical Technician. The people who carry people away in ambulances when they're sick, injured, or near dying. They broke into her house, and they shot her, and they killed her. They have... Who I'm talking about is a woman named Breonna Taylor. This happened a couple years ago.
Any book that...
And their claim was self-defense because the boyfriend opened fire. But the boyfriend didn't know they were police officers. He didn't know they were cops. They didn't announce themselves before they tried to break in to their home.
And no-knock warrants should be abolished. Any law-abiding American citizen knows that you can't just walk up to someone's door in any instance unannounced and be accepted with open arms. Certainly not if you're an armed person coming to the door. There is no reason that a lawful officer in a lawful situation should ever be allowed to come into your house without proper documentation at all. You should be forced to show a warrant, which allows you entrance into my home. You should be forced to show identification showing that you are the proper officer in this situation. And you should have to announce yourself in a lawful position to enter my home. You don't sneak inside like a burglar into anyone's home. They do that out of fear. Oh, well, they could be armed. Well, this is America. Lots of people are armed. That's a law-abiding citizen's right to be armed. So no-knock warrants should be completely abolished. There's no reason you should be at my house unannounced, especially if you're in a lawful position of an officer.
It happened many years ago now, but there was a little black girl who was killed. It's been so long I've forgotten her name, so take my word on it or not. But there was a little black girl who was killed. She was about 7 years old. She was killed in a no-knock raid. They went to the wrong place. There was also a little boy. He wasn't killed, thankfully. But unless he's had the ability to have plastic surgery, he'll be scarred throughout his entire life. Because they threw a grenade nearby his crib and it fucked up his face.
Yep.
I got one for you. 1975, Pine Ridge Reservation. Okay? The AIM movement, American Indian Movement, was there to help with the reservation with armed goons and local police officers assaulting the native people. They're also dealing with corporations trying to move in on the reservation, take up their land for mining and other resources. To try to buy them out from underneath. Well, the federal government put out a list of most wanted. Black Panthers was on the list, so was AIM. AIM was like the Black Panther movement for the Native Americans. When shit doesn't get done, they get it done. Well, Leonard Peltier, who's still in prison to this day for something he did not do, was there with them, helping the tribes people. So they found one of their own murdered on their reservation. Next thing you know, several cars start popping up, unmarked federal agents, plain clothes with assault rifles. They have hunting rifles. They don't have assault rifles. So they start creeping through the fields, through the bushes, and start trying to attack the tribe. So they're trading gunfire back. Leonard Peltier, while the gunfire is going on, was trying to help get the kids out of the homes so they don't get shot. During the gunfire, 2 federal agents gets killed by their own guns. Friendly fire. Now, talking about no-knock warrants just coming in unannounced, that's bullshit. What's even more bullshit is the fact that out of all the people from the A movement that was tried, everyone got everything dropped on them except Leonard Peltier, because they're wanting to stick it to someone. They wanted to cover their ass to show that they had a purpose for being there. Yeah. Even though they had evidence showing that the gun that fired the shots that killed those federal officers was not Leonard Peltier's. He was tried for murder. Halfway through trial, they said they switched up to he's on trial for accessory. For, you can't do that legally. Yeah. But they did. They made it stick. They had a racist judge in a county where a lot of people in the county were racist towards Native Americans to begin with. They railroaded him. And every time they try to get any kind of action done to get him out, the feds try to shut it down every time. Because they did not want to admit their fuck up. He's 77 years old, still in federal prison. And he's dying of health complications, health issues and stuff. And everyone is still trying to get him out so he can be at least at home with his people and just live a peaceful life. When he went in, he was in his late 20s, early 30s. Right now, he's 77 years old. He's been in there for those many years. Model inmate, didn't cause no harm, didn't raise no hell, nothing. But yet, that no-knock bullshit, that started back then. They did that shit with the Black Panthers, did that shit with the AIM movement,
yep.
And now they're doing that shit to basically anyone.
Just random people now.
Just random people now.
Sluggish behavior.
And back then they were using militia, armed militia.
I'd like to say a couple of things about racism and the justice system in America. One, police officers got their start as the slave patrols. Slave patrols being the patrols they would send out when slaves escaped from their plantation and they need to bring them back home. That's where cops get their start from. They get their start from being enforcers of a racist system. Now, to go back to the blue lives, all lives matter, people can have that debate for as long as they want to. What I will say is this. Blue lives don't matter. Because blue lives don't exist. You know what a blue life is? A blue life is a fucking uniform. Unless you're a goddamn Smurf. You can take off a uniform. You can't take off...
Sorry.
You can take off a fucking uniform. You can't take off black skin. Unless, of course, you're trying to kill someone.
Or unless you're Ed Gein or Jeffrey Dahmer. I mean, they had the recipes.
Serial killers.
Yeah. I mean, Ed Gein has a nice way of making upholstery and a full skin suit. Jeffrey Dahmer has a nice home decor, if you will, but I'm just saying, you know.
So you can take off a uniform without dying. You cannot take off skin without dying. Therefore, blue lives don't matter because they don't exist. And of course, black lives fucking matter.
But what if it's a haunted uniform? Or it reminds me of this fucking cartoon I saw where a woman calls the police to get this ghost out of her home.
Yeah.
They come in shooting at the ghost, trying to get it, and he's beating him with a nightstick. He's like, why can't he not feel my body's stick of justice? You know? And then they decided, a good idea. So the cops shoot themselves and they become ghosts. And they start pistol whipping and billy clubbing the ghosts and stuff like that. And they change the cop car to a ghost car. Yeah.
Cyanide and happiness. Now, where I got that statement that 900 to 1,000 people are killed every year by police officers is a little-known website called KilledByPolice.net. It should still be operative. I don't know if it's updated to the current year, but it should still be at least existent. So if you want to verify what I said, there's the website to go and look it up.
Now, speaking of censorship, let's talk about censorship. Okay, recently, from my son doing a little digging down rabbit hole, because he loves doing that when we do this shit, he comes right here and tell me about an actual law in which I've seen recently passed here in Oklahoma to where parents can narc out schools about banned books and they can get rewarded $10,000 per book.
Oh, actually, I
spit it out. Come on, buddy.
I watched and it wasn't $10,000 a book. It was $10,000 for every day
It's
that
still
the book is
in the
still
library.
So it's $10,000 every day. The book's still in the school library. So that means they're doing the same thing that they're doing in Texas about the abortion law.
Yep.
So, wow, what a fucking pathetic piece of shit our state has become.
And you know what? Talking about fascism and the Third Reich, one of the signs of fascism is getting neighbors to narc on other neighbors. Getting people to watch other people.
And also burning literature and material that is not agreed by the status quo. And you just got done talking about something similar just recently.
Yes.
Oh, that's all right.
We talked about a lot. I need more context.
You know, just about the book list you got from the schools.
Oh, yes. Yeah. In high school, where I went, if we were in advanced placement classes, we were given a list of banned books. And I have a family that's still in public school today that were given lists of banned books in order to open them to the books that they weren't allowed to talk through in the curriculum. In advanced placement classes that I was in, we were allowed to read and discuss the ideas that were considered controversial in these books. And I think that is a root of education, is to have a discourse, a thinking, logical discourse on these controversial, quote-unquote, controversial things that upset us as individuals in society. And that is rooted in our freedom to think for ourselves and to be open to discussion of any type, to have logical, thoughtful discussion with other people. And to take that away and to try to close people's minds is in direct opposition to everything that teaching is made for, and that education should be made for, because that's what knowledge and education is about, is opening your mind and creating an open forum for people to have logical, thoughtful discussion.
All right, what books do you remember reading?
We had Fahrenheit 451. We read Huckleberry Finn. We read Animal Farm. We read, let's see. So long. I feel so old.
Back in my day, back in 1924.
Let's see. 1984. This is a very popular book.
And Brian was watching the movie of it.
Yeah,
last time.
and there's lots of good film adaptations, and we read lots of books that were considered controversial that weren't, banned. We read, well, at the time, I think it was banned. A Clockwork Orange was banned. We actually watched the film in school, which is...
Shock.
Yeah, that's what you get.
Wait, here's the rape scene. Here's the rape scene.
Yeah, it was certainly a topic of discussion for everyone when we watched the movie in school.
I remember watching Clockwork Orange at our friends, okay, when Pickles movie rails was still open. Yeah. You could go up there for $20 for 20 movies for 20 days. We went over there. Rented the most fucked up shit we could think of. We rented Clockwork Orange for the first time. And we were sitting there, we're just like in awe. It was like just sucked into the psychedelic shit of it, and then this crazy shit happened. It was like, all right, going on for the in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. It's like, oh, in and out, in and out, oh, in and out. I was like, wow. But I remember the books that we read in school that was banned now, and so, or that was considered banned back then. We read a lot of Shakespeare, like Hamlet, Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, Midnight Summer's Tale. We read To Kill a Mockingbird, Mice and Men.
To Kill a Mockingbird, yeah.
Animal Farm. I read Huckleberry Finn and stuff. We didn't really get to Fahrenheit 451 or 1984 back then, okay? But we did read a lot of books that was considered controversial and stuff, or considered to be banned. Outsiders is banned recently, which is shocking because here in Tulsa, where the book was based on,
it's a beloved memory. It's a look back in time at the history of our town.
Yeah.
So it's held in high esteem by almost everyone that lives here in Tulsa, at least.
Yeah.
So to hear that it's banned from our young people's curriculum for gang violence and youth smoking seems a little overreach.
I think they just say that as an excuse, but the thing about it was it dealt with a clash of classes, yes. Social classes. Mm-hmm. You have the elite, the rich, which is the socias, who lived in the South Side, which to this day in the South Side, the rich yuppie bastards, that's where they fucking live. All the nice shit is on the South Side. So you go to South Tulsa, you see all the nice shit. The greasers live on the North Side or closer on the West Side. To this day, that's where all the fucking rough shit is West and North Sides. Or yeah, it's still going on to this day, but you don't have a bunch of fucking yuppies driving around in Mustangs looking for fights. Now they're, calling the police and being a bunch of fucking Karens, okay? It's like, you heard my civil rights. You're fucking white. What civil rights do you fucking have? For fuck's sakes, grow a fucking pair, but seriously, why the fuck do we have to sit through this, I mean, my son is homeschooled, thankfully. I'm teaching him from home because of his health conditions. But I'm also teaching him to look at everything, go down the rabbit hole. He loves history just as much as I do. But, he fully understands and knows who the Black Panther Party is. And it's funny to hear that he fucking schooled my mom while she's on the phone with her boyfriend on what the Black Panther Party was, because she was like, "Oh, isn't that gang?" And I was like, "No, it's not a gang, Grandma. It's this." And he's like, "They done food pantries for the people in the community. They done school outreaches. They done this and that. They police the police when they're trying to do their abusive bullshit. They go up there and we'll take care of this, you know."
To protect the citizens of their communities.
Exactly.
A necessary protection of their communities that was not being done by the so-called, to protect and serve people.
And that's kind of what the A movement was too. And honestly, I feel like, they're doing a good service. People want to fucking bash them and say negative things about them, but they're creative out of necessity. They're creative to be able to provide a service for the community that they were not properly given. Mm-hmm. Even though with their own tax-paying money, they put it into the system that helped pay the salaries of the police and the training and the healthcare and all that stuff, but they're not getting that. And right now, our tax-paying money is going into the system that's meant for our healthcare, our children's education, and our own safety and protection, and we're not getting our money's worth every time. And like I mentioned in previous videos, after learning this, I bring this up with everyone that I talk about this shit, because it opens their eyes up quick. 2019, our tribes, every 35 tribes in the state donated $15.5 billion to the state economy, to help fund education, infrastructure, and all this stuff. But yet we cannot pay the light bill for Tulsa Public Schools. We cannot properly pay the teachers their fair share of wages. We cannot provide proper health care for the community and the public. We cannot we cannot put grocery stores in the communities that need it. Everything's get put elsewhere that doesn't need to be put elsewhere. Almost $16 to $20 billion a year the tribes donate to this state, and they equally have almost just as much in millions of dollars in dollars that they save the state every year. But yet, all that money is going somewhere, and it's not showing up where it needs to show up. That's food for thought. And it's not just for this state. Think about the tribes in other states and other communities that help put in their fair share. Where all the money is going there.
Or to talk about the military and college again, little fact for you. 1 year of what we spend on the military could provide tuition-free college to anyone who wants it in this country for up to 10 years at least.
Not to mention all the food that can be provided for all the people that are hungry and starving.
Yep.
You can feed millions of people.
Here's another little fact for everybody.
Okay.
It costs more to put homeless people in a fucking prison or a fucking jail cell or for the cops to harass them than it does just to give them a place to rest their fucking head.
There are enough empty houses in America that no one should have to be homeless or hungry. There are so many resources available. We have such a plentiful society that no one should be homeless or hungry. But for some reason, we have people suffering and dying on the streets every day when there's all these resources. Why? Look at your own communities and think about why that's not being provided, why that service isn't being available to people. And think about who you're voting for. Think about who your words go behind. Think about who in your community is worth speaking for and who is not.
The reason we have the problems with homelessness, healthcare, providing food, Just because it's all about making that green, baby. It's all about making that fucking money. And we value that profit over those people's lives.
I'm good.
Okay.
I got diabetes, so I was like,
I don't know if
I got the sugars. Sorry.
But that's true. The homeless community. I'll share one brief story myself. I was associated briefly in my youth, in my misspent youth, with a corporation that's very well known on the side of the road in all of Tulsa government. You guys know the tree business I'm speaking of. Briefly associated with them.
Come on, you can say it.
I was told by
Say it.
leading official at Upwood Trees that the reason that we're not putting out fruit-bearing or tree nut-bearing trees is because they do not want the homeless to eat for free.
Fucking A.
I was told as a young person, verbatim, that is exactly why they're only planting ornamental bushes and trees. And I was appalled that they have the ability and the resources to do that, but intentionally shutting out an entire side of the community because of their political views.
You know what? I suggested that not too long ago to a lot of city officials. Sorry. I'm kind of getting a little too comfortable there. I was sitting on my nutsack for a bit. A while back, like I was talking about in previous videos, how I talked to local representatives and city council and all that. And I suggested that we do exactly that. Encourage healthy eating, people on the bike trail and stuff, have nice little fruit trees hanging and stuff, so that way when they're walking up and down the bike trail exercising, which homeless do travel up and down the bike trail up here, they'll pick an apple, pick a, peach, whatever is there. If they're hungry, give them something that would be beneficial for them. It'll be plentiful of juice in the fruit. It'll be keeping them hydrated, keeping them full, keeping them healthy. It just upsets me. And I even suggested the fact that we do what other states and other cities are doing with the little mini homes. Give them a place where they can be able to call their own.
Lay their heads safely.
Yeah. Give them an address. Give them a little Wi-Fi hotspot in there where they can be able to take their little government cell phones and be able to communicate with people they need to communicate with.
Or you want to talk about homeless people and sleeping. We have benches that have what, you might think of as armrest. Because maybe you think that's what it's there for. These little benches that have a little loop of metal that you can rest your arm on. But that's not there to make you comfortable. That's to make sure that homeless people can't sleep on that bench.
They can't lay flat, fully flat. There are also benches that are made with concrete spikes intentionally protruding so the birds can't rest there, and also so the homeless people can't lay flat out of the rain. Urban architecture in this city is always thought of to be anti-homeless, anti-transient, anti-homeless people. So many places you go, they make them in a strategic way to deter people from having comfort or being out of the elements or being out of the weather. And it's ridiculous. It's appalling.
And earlier we were talking about kids aging out of the foster home system at 15. 15, you can't legally rent a house. You can't legally rent an apartment.
Can't drive a car. Can't even buy a car.
Can't even legally work anywhere. At least not full time anyway, I can tell you that.
Nope. Usually not without parental consent. And if you're aging out of a government system,
who's your parent that's going to give you consent?
just shoved out. So all of these pro-birthers that want to have people put into that system that's already strapped as far as resources are, they need to think about that too, because there's nowhere.
How many of those foster kids that we're talking about are also those homeless that we're currently talking about?
Get the hot dogs up.
It's true. And there's no thought there's no thought into their safety, into their future well-being, into their furthering education. At 15, if you can't drive a car and you don't even have a high school diploma, there's no, what are you supposed to do with yourself at 15 years old?
I got 15. Shit. You're not even taught life skills properly at that point. You're not even taught to...
Especially if you grew up in a foster home without parents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not even taught to, how to apply... The hot dogs. Deeper in the deep freezer. Deep freezer. Sorry, my son's in it. So.
It's almost dinner time.
Yeah. I'm hungry, Daddy. No. The thing about it is, at 15... Like me at 15, I didn't know shit from my ass. I thought I did, but I don't. Okay? I worked at... My first real job was at 15. I was unloading trucks at a wholesale shop called Cheapo Depot with my mother, of all things. And your mother, too.
Absolutely.
And boy, was that an experience right there. I remember... Eli will call up there, or Joe call up there and get all worked up, and I'll be out there on the sidewalk. She'll be in the back stalker. It was like, listen here, you dickless motherfucker. You know, it was like, oh, Robin, no.
Special lady.
You know, she's like, or she's like, you listen here, you cocksucker, or listen here. It's like, oh. It's like, when she starts going on like that, it's like, or when I hear over the intercoms, like, Robin, you gotta call on too. I'm going out sweeping. I know what to do. Sweep. Because they're like, I'll get a chuckle out of it. It's like, Eli's gonna get his ass kicked when he gets home. And sometimes she'll clock out to leave just to go whoop Eli's ass and come back.
Okay.
I'm getting off track here. I'm sorry, but the point is,
maybe we should wrap up.
Yes.
You have any final thoughts?
Final thoughts is this: we went down the gambit on a lot of things today. Our lovely friend here, my lovely sis Nicole, our colleague Jeff here, my son Brian, who's off in the crapper to think. Because a lot of good ideas start from the crapper.
Oh, yeah.
Food for thought.
That's also where Elvis died.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a positive or a negative. I can't quite decide.
I think it's a positive, because when a person dies, you piss and shit yourself. So when he's sitting on that throne, I'm sure the cleanup crew's like, oh, thank you, Jesus. All that deep fried peanut butter banana sandwiches and all the meth and all the shit he was doing. Just crapping out in that toilet is like, flush, zip, done. Cleanup's done. You can tag him,
Wheelie mouth.
Elvis has left the building. But the point is this. All these things we do talk about, we do care about. It's a concern that we have constantly. Every bit of things that we discuss, whether it be the African American community, Native American, Hispanic, LGBTQ, everyone. We are trying to be here to call bullshit on everything that we see. And if there's not a big enough voice out there, we don't mind being that fucking boot that kicks open the door like a mafia boot. Okay? We don't mind saying our shit, getting it out there, and letting it be heard. Because, like I always said, nowadays, you gotta be an asshole, or else someone's gonna walk all over you. Am I right?
Yeah. You have any
final thoughts?
In closing, I'd like to say to be part of this podcast is really a pleasure for me, because I'm a person that believes that open thinking and open discourse and knowledge is power, for lack of it being cliche. So I think that anytime you can get with people in your community, even if they're not like-minded, even if they're not just like you, to be able to have that free thought and that free discourse is the center of what builds community, and that's what we need more of in today.
Also, let's turn this camera over here this way. Oh, get up here, you little booger. I want to thank my son for helping out. He keeps going in there looking up videos. Oh, they're doing this shit now, Daddy. You need to know about this, and that. It's like, okay, thank you, son. And he'll go off and look up more shit for us. So I want to thank my son Brian here. Say hi. Oh, now you're being all quiet and silent. Earlier you wouldn't even shut
I'm
up.
trying to talk to you.
I know. Thank you, though, for helping
I'm
us.
trying to get you to go in there so I can show you it, but you're.
Well, we're working on this. I cannot really just up and leave here, Bubba.
Any final thoughts for you, Jeff?
Well, my biggest aim, the thing that I'd like to do, is to be a voice for the voiceless, to be a voice for people who are marginalized and oppressed, to be somebody who speaks out for the rights of others.
Amen.
CM Punk did it.
No, CM Punk's being a dick right now. That's a different story.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for coming out. And
Thank you.
I have to agree with Jeff wholeheartedly. And this is why we do what we do. And this is why we have like-minded people on here. Hi. You wonderful, lovely fucking heathens, you. So I'm Thomas Johnson.
I'm Jeff Key.
And we're drinking piss. Thank you for having us. And thank you, Nicole Dawson, for coming out and being a part of this wonderful, lovely occasion. We are the God That's Left. Thank you. Please subscribe, follow, and look our asses up on Facebook.
Till next time, motherfuckers.
Stay sick, motherfucker.